Alright, this is part 2.
After the end of the age, after the second coming. 2 Samuel 6:23, and Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no children to the day of her death. Same word there, translated to. Did she have children after the day of her death? I should hope not.
What's the same word? So, 2 Samuel 6:23? Let's go to that. So here's 2 Samuel 6:23. Therefore Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no children unto the day of her death. So what is the word for until here? Or unto here? So Strong's and Concordance does not have it, but let's look it up online. So here we're at the Bible Hub, and it does the Hebrew. So breaks it down. Therefore Michal, the daughter of Saul, no had two children to, this would be it here, the day of her death. So this is the word unto that's in the verse. So it's at, or that's how it's pronounced. But it's a completely different language. This is in Hebrew, not Greek, or Koine Greek, as in the New Testament, as in Matthew. So CD, regarding the word until in Matthew, go to different books, and different contexts, and different authors. The main one, different authors, and try to explain away this word. Even though, as you saw in the previous part, is that 1 Corinthians, it does mean the same thing. It means until. Jesus, the Son, changed. And then he did the thing, put the enemies under his feet, and then submitted himself to God. So there was a change. He reigned, and then he submitted himself to God. Now this, Old Testament, hundreds or thousands of years before Matthew, different contexts, different authors, different times, different meaning of words. So it's definitely not the same language, definitely not the same word. I don't know why CD said it was the same word. But Matthew, I want to focus on the author. Who wrote Matthew? Matthew. And in Matthew, you will see that the word Heōs is used. Let's just go to it. So we're in Matthew, and the word till. Who means who, and then if you go to she, it's the Heōs part. It's kind of like, I don't know if anyone knows Japanese, the words in English are kind of switched regarding what is said in Japanese. So this is Heōs u. Heōs and u. But the Heōs part means until of time, even as far as how long, until, hither, up until, while. So that's what the word means. So we're going to focus on the word Heōs. So in Matthew, as we saw, it was used, if we go here, Matthew, it is used 48 times, and then it lists all the times it is used. And this is what my video series in Matthew will be about, showing that the author Matthew used Heōs as always. Every time it's always used of a change of standard. And that's how we know that what it's referring to in Matthew 1:25 is that Joseph did not know Mary in an intimate way until after the birth of Jesus, because that's the context how Matthew uses it every single time it is used in the book of Matthew. It doesn't matter, even if you can find a verse in the New Testament or the Old Testament that someone else, another author, uses Heōs to mean the standard continues from that point and even on further. What is the author saying? In Matthew is saying it is used the same way. So I look forward, I studied over this for a few hours, few days actually, making sure that every single verse does in fact mean, because if there was one verse that says that, oh, it doesn't apply this way, that it does continue onward, the standard remains, then this point would be pointless. Because you can just say, well, see, Matthew said it's a continuing standard. But looking through all of these verses, in the context, if we go into the context of each chapter, so chapter 1, that's the one we're talking about, and then chapter 2 goes over a few, 5, and you see, and then there's all these verses, and you will see that there's always a change of standard up until a point, and then it changes once something happens, once that standard is met. such as Matthew 1:25. And it is exciting, and it's really the figurative nail in the coffin regarding this whole argument. So I encourage anyone, whether you're Catholic or Christian or whatever, to read through Matthew, the whole book, to see where these words are used. Unto, until, till. But Heōs, whenever that's used, it is always meaning a change of standard. And that is amazing. And that, I'm hoping, once you see this, and how Matthew, the author, who is writing the chapter of Matthew 1, is referring to the word Heōs, until, unto, as a past, as a change in standard. I gotta head to an estimate, so I'm cutting this video off here. Alright, toodles. Whoa, hey. Also, Matthew, looking at Matthew, the word Heōs is used 48 times, and this I'll be making a series about this, going over maybe 5 or 6 verses at a time, to keep it short and sweet, because it's going to be at least 48 minutes long, because there's 48 verses. But anyways, looking at Matthew, if you have a question about the context of how a word is used, such as until, or unto, or as far as, or so much for the word Heōs, or Heōs, you should look at it, who is writing it. So, we're in Matthew 1:25. How else is that verse, how else is that word used? So, that word shows up 48 times in the book of Matthew. And I spent, and I'm happy to go over it, I mean, it's very exciting, actually. The question of why do Catholics use verses out of other books, written by other authors, for the context of Matthew? People write different things. I use words specifically that might not mean what other people think. Like, some people say, here's an example, some people say, unfortunately, I got the job, when you should say fortunately. So a lot of people will say unfortunately and fortunately interchangeable, depending on who's saying it. And that's why we should look at Matthew, the author of Matthew, the way he writes and uses the word until in that context. So as you see through the various verses regarding that word Heōs in Matthew, it's all used as a change of standard up until this point, and then it changes, or the change of condition, as other Catholics may say, or CD says. So, yes.